Hello everyone, welcome to Chasing a Murderer. Happy weekend. Today we have a treat. We're going to actually go over some of the subscriber comments and their thoughts on the new ruling by Judge Boyce attached to the Lori Vallow case. And that's the fact that they're taking the death penalty off the table. While a lot of us don't agree on all the facts or how things went down in this case, most of us agree that justice must prevail. I always think it's interesting to see others' perspectives on what they think on this case, and I want to share that with you today. Before we get started, there's a few things I want to kind of go over. And, I think the people that were affected most in this case is Larry and Kay Woodcock, because this was all happening within their family. It happened to Kay's brother, it happened to her grandson, and then Lori's daughter, Kylie Ryan. That's a lot of people to know. That's a lot of devastation for one family. A lot of people are wondering, what do they think about Judge Boyce and his decision? And I think you're going to find out that they're not very happy. What in the world happened? That's what everybody's wondering. And, we didn't expect that to happen whatsoever. We keep hearing that the prosecution, well, they're a little bit slacking when it comes to submitting evidence. And this might be the main reason for decision Judge Boyce made. That was a tongue twister, guys. Many people wondering if this has something to do with the fact that she's a woman. And on News Nation, they actually discussed that, and I'm going to show you a clip here. But first, let's watch some clips before this judgment come along.
Very sad. I was very saddened to hear JJ's name. And I'm very happy at the stage that we are at right now. This case is moving forward. It's moving forward with respect. I personally introduced myself to both of the defense attorneys. As I always do, I tried to say hello to everybody and thank everybody. But I think we're very close to a combination of 3 hard years. And I want to thank everybody for all that y'all's continued support. It is very important to Kay and I. And I know justice will be served. And there's 4 people to remember here. There's two innocent kids. And that's what this is about. It's not about me. It's not about Kay. It's about justice for 2 children. And I just want everybody to keep that in your prayers and your thoughts. It was wonderful to hear their names spoke in court, but it was heartbreaking. This shouldn't have been. This was senseless. Nobody deserved this. Not one death in this was deserved. For greed and lust. For what? Some money? My God. 2 children. 2 innocent children. So, thank y'all. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Y'all all know me. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, baby.
Unnerving. I honestly thought I wouldn't feel anything, but I couldn't have been further wrong. I look at her and think, I loved her and trusted her. I trusted her with
Our baby.
a life.
With our Baby.
The weed.
It doesn't get more raw than that. She trusted her with the life that they wanted to protect and do the right thing for. During this time, there's a lot of emotion running through these two because they feel like justice is coming and it's going to hit hard. Then Lori started pulling her little things to where she didn't want cameras in the courtroom. A lot of people don't understand that. If you understand Lori, you'll understand it's whatever makes life difficult, or if it's something that's not working out for her, so maybe her hair isn't done. No more mental hospitals and hairstylists. But not having cameras made it hard on the families. I'm not going to lie. That was the main thing that it hurt.
Sides, what they were trying to say. To me, the issue is not the cameras or it's not the audio. To me, the issue was Lori playing to the cameras. Just because the defense team and the prosecution didn't pay attention to the cameras and Lori did, it was Lori who was playing to the camera. Oh, I got my ring on. Oh, let me go outside and let me pose for the cameras. The judge has discretion, and I hope he uses it, and I hope he's wise in his decision. I think we as a public have the right to be involved in that court every day, and you as the media should be there every day.
You know what hurts the most are the families that are embarrassed by some of their family members or scared to deal with the media. Now they have to come out in the open to see what's going on. It's not fair. Larry's absolutely correct here. A lot of people feel as if Boyce is just, he's kissing her rump, giving her everything that she asked. If anybody's slacking, it's the prosecutors. Judge Boyce has given them a hard time. They can't win to save their lives. And we're coming up on a trial. That makes you second think what's going to happen. I mean, what else can go wrong if you can't have cameras and then you take the death penalty off the table for someone that killed their own children? Remember, these interviews are before that death penalty event.
Don't see reason for separation. If the defense is not prepared, that's the defense's problem. If they the one that stood up long ago and said we're ready to go to trial. So as far as I'm concerned, I feel like that it's time to move forward.
Today, but previously, what do you think of her demeanor?
Lori is just being Lori. And if you read anything other than that, that's just Lori being Lori, laughing in court, making mockery of the court, joking and jovial and whatever. And you know, Lori's just Lori. And when this is over, she's going to be sitting in jail as far as we're concerned, you know, for a lifetime, hopefully. But as far as Lori, I mean, she just thinks she's on stage performing. That's how I feel. And I just want it to move forward. It's time to give those kids rest. And it's time for us to provide that closure. And it's time for the state.
Then finally, this is what they share after they find out the death penalty's off the table.
Female defendants of a triple murder is so incredibly rare. Finding death qualified jurors is also really hard. And then finding jurors who actually convict and agree to vote for a death penalty against a woman is extremely hard. Again, the Casey Anthony thing, many of the jurors struggled with that.
You know, this boils down, Ashley, to people were murdered. People were murdered. I lost a grandson. I lost a granddaughter. I lost a brother-in-law. And God, I pray for everybody every night involved in this case. Tammy was a tragedy. All of these murders are just totally unjustified.
Next, he shares their thoughts of what they think about the judge and his decision, and you can't blame them.
There has been nobody more supportive of Boyce than I have. And I'm going to state this right now. I no longer consider Boyce a judge. From this point on, I will not refer to him as a judge. This is my belief now. I think he has made bad calls. Do I think there may have been some things that could have been done different? Yeah, I do. This ruling that he handed out today is an insult to JJ. It's an insult to Tylee. It's an insult to Charles. And it's an insult to Tammy. It's a slap in the face to our family. And I think this ruling should do an interlocutory appeal tomorrow. I think the fact that Judge Boyce is not allowing cameras in this court, I have said it before, is wrong. To Tammy, it's a slap in the face to our family.
There you go. It is a slap in the face. What the heck is going on? This is not how it should have turned out. This was not expected by anyone. Okay, let's see what some of our subscribers think about Judge Boyce and his decision. So here's Ron. She's writing a book on this, and we look forward to seeing this. She has kept up with this case probably better than I have. So, she's seen the Arizona prison, what they're like. And she says life in prison will be far worse than death. The death penalty is too easy for these ridiculous monsters. It's dog eat dog where she is going, especially in Arizona. And she says that her infamy, well, there'd be a target on her head. Still, she says she believes that Lori should be brought to justice. So this is someone giving you background that has already been there and knows what to expect at the Arizona prison. Thanks, Ron, for sharing with us, and good luck on your book. Okay, next we have the wonderful Marcella McNeil. She says, I can tell you that I am thinking that if she stood in front of Jesus, she wouldn't even get a glance her way from Jesus. The 10 Commandments are pretty clear, and it says, thou shalt not kill, and Jesus is not going to take her out of her cell and take her to heaven. I think the devil will claim her as his own. And what she's referring to is the fact that she believes that Jesus is coming to get her while she's behind bars. At least that's what her attorney insinuated. And you can say that she's already the devil's best friend. Everything that she and Chad have done are all examples of the warnings the church and many people have warned about deceiving or deceivers. I think you're right, doll. Thanks for sharing. Laurel's heart says, there should be transparency in the courtroom. She's evil walking. So far, they all have one thing in common that they're saying. They believe that this woman is evil. And I think they're right. I think the devil would even say, hey, she's worse than I could ever be. Thank you, honey, for sharing. Pam Keith actually shares an interesting side here. She says, "Thanks, Deb. It's amazing how the prosecution has had this case for so long, and they should know the law to hand over all the evidence to the defense, but they made such a simple mistake, and it made the judge take the death penalty off the table." I love your idea, Deb. The family should sue. I'm so afraid that there may not be any real justice. How can Lori get away with so much all her life? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense if you really understand what all this woman has done in her lifetime. All the chaos and the threats and the attacks. What the heck? And her brother is the one that pays every time for all of these things that she is over. She's pushing these ideas. Just reminds me of Charles Manson. And knowing that she's the one over this stuff, she doesn't care that her brother's dead, he's no longer here, that he's the one taking on all the heat and all the blame. But we're trying not to let that happen. Thank you so much for sharing. Next is Emmy Lou. She says, "I wonder if this will eventually result in the death penalty also being removed for Chad, because there are rules about people convicted of the same crimes not getting significantly different sentences." And isn't that a great question? Because a lot of us are wondering that, even though we believe that both deserve the death penalty, is it fair that Chad has to face the death penalty and not Lori? Make sure that you guys take a moment to comment your thoughts on this comment. So next we have our girl, Kavita Diva. She believes that this case has been botched up from the beginning. There's just things that are going wrong that are not supposed to be part of the legal system. And why did Lori want to have a speedy trial when she was stalling over and over with this insanity situation, as well as going to the mental hospital? Doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to us either. But there is something I do want to bring up, and that's regarding the death penalty. See if you can understand this. To me, having life in prison without the possibility of parole is worse than the death penalty. Here's why. The average person that is on death row is there for 25 years. That is because they are going through appeal after appeal, and it takes years and years and tons of money. Also, on death row, you get a bigger cell, you get television, and in some institutions on death row, you get to have a cat as a companion. So death row is easier than being in general population or in prison around any other inmates. I would rather see Lori having life in prison and people beating the crap out of her, setting her up for living in hell because all the inmates know why other inmates are in prison. And when they find out that she killed her children, that is going to be the most hellish way to spend your life in prison. I do understand symbolically that the death penalty is justice. However, living it out, I think, is worse to have a life in prison because it's very difficult, especially when inmates turn you into their little witch and make your life the worst living hell you can think of. But again, I do want to say I understand why any of the victims' families want to see them get the death penalty because that to them is justice. So absolutely, yeah, that is a good point. I think a lot of people, if they're like me, when they were hoping for the death penalty is that she would get that feeling of what it's like to know that you're not going to live forever and that that can come at any time. And that just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you're not going to get the death penalty. And we are learning that, of course, yeah, Diva, you're right. It might be worse for her to spend time in prison the rest of her life. But I don't think a lot of people realize that no matter what Lori gets, it doesn't sink into her because she doesn't think like other people. But maybe a lifetime in jail, eventually one day she'll wake up one morning and say, "Oh my God, I'm in hell for killing my own kids." And then I think Larry and Kate are coming to terms that, that's fine. Life in prison's better than her getting off right now because it's been quite scary, to be honest, watching Idaho handle this case. And they have Charles Vallow's trial to look forward to. Much love, Diva. Thank you for sharing. But I think eventually she's going to be running that prison and she's going to turn it into her paradise. And she's already got a head start on knowing how to get into groups and manipulate people into doing what she wants. And if you don't, she knows how to threaten you. It's going to be interesting to find out how that works out for her. Will it get her killed, or will she be queen of the prison? And I think most of you do agree that no one wants to see Lori have any type of companion that has a life. One person said, I hope she gets her butt kicked. Let her experience some pain that she's caused for other people for once. And so for me, I knew eventually if she had gotten a death penalty, that most likely she would never see that day come. It was just the thought that she would be afraid. Maybe. Is it too much to ask for this woman to come to her senses and feel some type of normal emotion? Does she even care about herself? We just will never know. So let's go over some new information. So Lori's defense team come out weeks before the trial, well, actually January, claiming that she had an alibi. And just now, prosecutors say that since trial is getting ready to begin, that this is too late, that when they filed this, it was back in January, 9 months after she was expected to file it. Normally, they have 10 days. But Lori says that when she was in her apartment with 3 other people, supposedly during the time that her children's lives were taken. Interestingly, it also states that Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, is responsible for killing the children in his apartment nearby. It almost sounds like a confession. So prosecutors say that, they can say, well, most likely those alibis, well, their witnesses will say that they are not true. Or they might be contradicting. We'll have to wait until trial starts to find out. So let's go ahead and continue with our comments. Rhonda Henderson. Hi, Rhonda. She shares a very short comment that says, they even hired an extra prosecutor from Missouri. No parole, life. There have been so many comments with these same concerns that Rhonda's sharing with us. The prosecutor supposedly hired someone that is an expert with homicide cases. This doesn't make sense, and they're wondering, is there something more going on? There's no doubt. Prosecutors, defense, and the judge, they get some steamy talks going on behind the scenes, but I'm not that familiar with how dirty that can get or how legal it is. But I have read when I'm trying to learn more about law. It happens. They make deals. And so was this a way to get around a deal they didn't no longer want? Or is this something else? What do you guys think? Share it in comments below. If not, this was the most sloppy mistake I think I've seen since I've been covering stories for the past 4 years. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I appreciate you sharing, Rhonda, you helping us out. That was a really good question. Okay, it is our girl Marcella McNeil again. You're awesome. So guys, if I miss a comment, or maybe I do a few comments by the same person, hang with me. Debbie, I just learned that Arizona has the death penalty, so for now she is safe regarding the death penalty, but it is my hope that the Arizona prosecutors are better prepared. And why is Loco so determined to go forward? Sorry guys, lost my spot with trial. All right, McNeil's fixing to get on it here. I just read ahead a little bit. Pure strategy on the part of the lawyers, but as well a smell a rat, in my opinion. I think, but I may be wrong, that the LDS Church is involved more than we know. And I'm wondering if the judge is a Mormon as well. The prosecutor is a Mormon, and they should keep this separate from the murder trial. I have an aunt back home, and she was a judge, and religion did not prevent her from sentencing people correctly, and she was tough. She would have had this trial done a long time ago. The prosecutor, Mr. Wood, is LDS, and so I get a gut feeling that Mr. Wood is doing this on purpose. Yep, I think a lot of us are starting to smell something, and it doesn't smell good. You know what I've found that's really, really important, that does touch a judge before anything ever happens, is people write letters to the judge. Hopefully Kay Woodcock and Larry and all the victims have done that. Because most likely, I can tell you right now, Lori's family, especially her mother and her father, know that writing a judge, you can have an impact on any decision he makes. So there's a good tip for you if ever one of your loved ones get in trouble, write the judge. But my goodness, yeah, this was an excellent, excellent comment. And we're all wondering, you know, poor Kay and poor Larry and poor Tammy's parents, poor Adam Cox and many of the Cox family members. And it's just sad. But we don't know how Tammy's family feels because they have stayed out of the spotlight. How? I don't know, but they've done it. I was going to speak to them once. Never got a chance to do it. I just wanted to ask them one question. And that is, did you ever see this coming? And did Tammy ever confide in you about anything? Because I always wanted to know, and I think we do know, you know, what Tammy went through right before this happened. And, you know, I don't get the closure I'm looking for simply because I just don't have anything for Tammy. I'm sure you guys feel the same, especially where the kids are involved. You got Tammy and Chad's children. Emma is basically Chad's shadow, and I hope she don't make these same mistakes. The other kids are unsure what to think, but they're trying to be loyal. And there's really not much, even no matter what they say, that can change anything. I just hope that they can be there for their mother, because she was manipulated in the worst way. Anyways, I went way off topic. Thank you so much, McNeil, for sharing. Oh, it's a hot day. You can hear them air conditioners cutting on and off everywhere. So, Katie H., she says, what happened to that experienced death penalty attorney? Y'all remember her, right? That's the one we were talking about earlier. I think they brought her from a different state. She said, you'd think she would have been able to help the prosecutors do a better job. Exactly, Katie. It doesn't make sense. I think a lot of people are, like several of you have said already, they're smelling a rat. But guys, Blake was, she was trying hard, but I guess she was trying hard. In the courtroom, it appeared she was trying hard, but she wasn't doing too well. Thank you, Katie. So finally, we're here with our girl, Joanna. I'm not going to pronounce your last name. I'm not going to mess it up for you. Now, she's sharing a comment referring to how Lori said no one would care if something happened to Charles Vallow. And this is something she said about Joe Ryan. Joanna says, if something happens to you, no one would care? What an absolute psycho. If someone says that to you, then you've got something to worry about. Girl, you have that right. Lori seen, I think she was surprised herself, the fact that Joe Ryan wasn't discovered for so long. And see, Lori likes to pull her partners, what it seems to me anyways, away from their families. She's a tornado. She destroys. Now, Joe Ryan was in contact with people, but he didn't necessarily have what seemed like a best friend. And usually, how do you have time these days to even have a best friend when you're dealing with what he's been dealing with? He's having to work to go to court and probably having to hire people to help keep an eye on him. For God's sake, he's being attacked. I always wondered if he ever hired private investigators or some kind of security. What was his financial situation? Nobody really knows. We know about his life insurance, but what happened to his bank statements? What happened to his car? Nobody knows. Haven't had time to look into it, but I will one day. But yeah, Joanna, it's crazy that she just seems to think after Joe Ryan's death and the fact that it took so long for anybody even catch on that he was even lying in his apartment that way. She must have felt that murdering could be easy. That's just my thought. That's not fact. It's nice to see you, Joanna. Have a good weekend, honey. Let's continue forward. And Barb Murray says, the thought of being in prison for the rest of your life is not so bad. Thanks, Barb. So let's keep going. Here's Joanna. I'm going to share another of her comments because I wasn't sure whether to share the other one. Debbie, I just don't know. Lori is so manipulative, especially with men. She's pulling every string she can. I just hope the families get what they hope or whatever it is. I don't even want to waste any of my brainwaves thinking about those creatures. Love you. I love you too, Joanna. You're just awesome. So I get what you're saying. It's 3 years of this already, right? Let's just get it over with. That's where a lot of people are at. Let's just get this over with. Thanks for sharing, honey. Here's another one of our special ladies. Fearless this. Hopefully, justice will come and that she gets life without parole. Then her face the charges in Arizona. Daybell, he is the one that started this train wreck. So let's hope that Boyce doesn't get scared or intimidated by Pryor and rule that DP would be unfair to his POS client. I think that Woods underestimated the defense of these monsters. He better get his head back in the game and not let this happen again. Boom. I hope he heard that. So, that's a really good share. A lot of emotion in that comment. Well, I think Mr. Rob Wood just got told. So he needs to get his head out of his butt and get back in the game. Thank you, love, for sharing your comments. I always like reading your responses. You and I don't always agree 100%, but oh my gosh, she makes sense. Like for everything you share. And we have a lot of Kims on this channel. This one is Kimberly Sisk. And I think this comment pretty much probably spoke for how Kay and many of the families feel that are attached to this case. She says, I feel like they're devaluing the innocent lives that were taken. In my opinion, sacrificed. How would they feel if it their children? And I think a lot of people are shocked today by how many people you find helping these evil monsters and how so many people do not understand the value of life. People are so detached. And, you make a really great point. I just wish people could value other people, their lives, their needs a lot more than they do. And the thing is, these people are not able to step into someone else's shoes. That's one of their problems. So imagining if it was their children, they can't see it because they're so busy hating and pushing their narrative. Thank you so much, Kimberly. And we have another lady that's in the hospital right now. I hope that she's doing well. I want to send you our love while we're thinking of our subscribers. We hope that you feel better and you get home soon. Okay, Jean P. We're going to take this one more comment and then we'll add the other comments on the next video. Okay. I'm so glad you're covering this. I lost faith in the prosecution, the judge, and the others who keep making legal errors. This ruling took a hard left, but life in prison without parole is fine. I had a weird feeling about this lack of confidence and experience. We saw the same thing happen with the Barry Morphew case, guys, if you've covered that. I will continue to put my thoughts and prayers with the victims and their families, and justice prevails. Thank you, Jean, so much for your love, and you're so kind. And I think we all agree that we hope that justice will prevail for these families and the victims, as well as we're hoping that the prosecutors are able to step up their game and to be prepared, think ahead, because they really don't understand the the level of evil they're dealing with. It's so great to see you. Thanks for sharing. This is a long video and I'm getting tired. COVID comes and goes and it's starting to hit me again right now. And I'm going to go ahead and close out. And don't forget, guys, we still have these girls missing. Please share their face and story. Some of these girls, they're installed. Like, I'm starting to get scared. And I've always had this draw to Jasmine Robinson. I know that hers can be solved. They just need someone to come forward and give them the opportunity to break this case. Love you guys. See you guys soon.